open this meeting of the Averill Park School Board on today, June 17th, 2024. If everybody could rise for the
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Jim is going to head up and give us your pledge.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's usually just the board and Terry Miller here, so it's just nice to have a crowd. The board education report, quick update. I wanted to pass along some information to the board. First of all, Foundation Aid, we're kind of keeping updated, and on top of that, as best we can, the Rockefeller Institute, as we know, has been tasked with doing some work on the formula. They've now announced their hearing dates, July and August. There's a link there. I know that Adam is planning on going and attending, which we appreciate, but there is a local hearing at Guilderland in mid-August, and you also can submit comments online. So just wanted to make sure both the board and the community were aware of that. Second, some staffing updates. You know, we talked a lot through the budget process, and we do not take the laying off of employees lightly, and we kind of committed ourselves to doing the best we can to find spots for people and to give them an opportunity beyond the year. And thanks to Kim and Matt and the principals and our special ed folks, we have a really good news report. And I won't read through the first paragraph there, you can read that on your own, but essentially these very talented people who we knew we had to lay off are all going to land somewhere here in the district. So obviously not great news because of the layoff part, but good news because we're able to keep them involved here in Averill Park, and hopefully things will eventually turn out and there'll be another opening for them, and we'll just kind of keep that going. But wanted to share that because it was some good news. You might have heard that it's warm outside. The news has not been covering this very much, so here we go. High temperatures. Just wanted to kind of give you an update. The high school is the simplest in many ways. They are out of school, but they have exams. Regents exams have to be held. That's a state thing. We have no choice in that. If they're not held and given, then students can't take them, and they have to take them in August. So there's essentially zero wiggle room for the district on that. So in some ways makes it easier, I guess. Heath and the high school staff have done a great job. I know Christina, who's here, has been very instrumental in that work. All exams are scheduled. They're going to happen in the building. They've been able to get things off of the second floor, so all of them will take place on the first floor. We do have to have students in the gym just based on numbers. Our capacity is not going to allow us to get kids out of the gym, but we have a plan there for doors to be open, actively supervised, keeping our safety protocols in place. Bill Sansone, many of you know, and our building grounds, has been buying and setting up fans all day, as well as getting thermometers. So we are pretty well prepared as best we can be. And we're going to utilize air conditioning as best we can during those exams for smaller groups that we can place in rooms that have them in the high school. In terms of the elementary, middle schools, our plan right now, we have been in close contact with the folks at West Sand Lake. Their field day is going to be a half day tomorrow. Originally it was a full day, moved to the morning. 7th and 6th grade picnics, they're going to move theirs around a little bit, eating in the cafeteria instead of outside. Again, using our air conditioned spaces. They're limited, certainly in the elementary schools, but where and when possible, using those for different purposes. Our building grounds department monitoring temperatures throughout the building. We actually started that today. We had temperature readings. Our system allows us to have that information. So we are watching the temperature very closely today. We're asking for all classroom blinds to be kept closed all day to keep the heat out tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we're running the air handler units overnight to bring in cooler air, at least for tonight. We're going to see how that goes. For those who have been following it, one of the issues is that the air is going to be warm tonight and tomorrow night and Wednesday night as well. So we're not going to have that cool down where we can bring that cool air in as effectively. In a better situation, it would get cooler and that would help us out. But at least for tonight, we're going to keep the air handlers running overnight to make sure we're getting as much cooler air, I guess not cold, but cooler air into the building as possible. So that's the plan for tomorrow. We'll evaluate after that and see where it takes us for Thursday. That is the report. We have a great video today, and we have some technical difficulties, so I'm going to apologize now. We do not have sound this time, so I've asked Matt to hum and sing along. Under other duties as assigned, Matt will provide any requests for Matt. So again, I apologize for the lack of sound, but just imagine some elevator music kind of going. Thank you. That's a little bit awkward without the music. It's sort of like not having the soundtrack to a comedy. That was a little bit different. So we're going to work on that sound system issue and get to you. We have one other thing as part of the superintendent report. The New York State School Board Association has a board excellence recognition program that is designed to acknowledge those school board members who strive to continually expand their governance knowledge and skills. And we've been notified by NISBA that we had not one, not two, but 3 board members who have achieved levels that are reached by accumulating points for participating in NISBA training, workshops, events, and activities, as well as for taking on board-related roles such as the board president or the advocacy liaison. So we have 3 folks on the board who we have certificates for. I'll hand them over to you as we get to as they walk over. But first, Adam Stewart, who unfortunately couldn't be with us, has achieved a level 1. Michelle Garofalo has achieved level 1, and Samantha Hicks has achieved both level 1 and level 2. So we have some recognition for you, and we thank you for your service. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thanks, Jess. Okay, item 3 is we have the action items, our first set that are around, you guessed it, tenure. So we're going to start, I just need, I need a motion to approve administrative tenure for Camille Harrison. Megan first, Jesse second. Any discussion around this tenure? We're just very grateful for all the incredibly hard work that Camille's done for. Okay, there we go. Go ahead. Yeah, that's it. We're very grateful. That's all. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay. Need a motion to approve instructional tenure appointments for, I'm gonna get this right, Caitlin Baker, Megan DeCano, Erin Hogan, Janet Malenfant, Barbara Shelkey, Catherine Spooner, Stephanie Valoria, Jacqueline Waters Costello, and Elizabeth Young. So we have first Jesse D. and Megan. Any discussion?
I just want to say I'm very happy that we are approving tenure tonight. This is like one of my favorite nights to do this. We had a couple tenures last meeting too, and I was very happy to approve those also. But I do want to just take a moment and recognize the 3-4 people that were on, hosted by Jim on the Every Student Every Day podcast, because I think what resonated with me is that each of you spoke about the environment here in the district, and that is something that is extremely important to me. And I'm just so thrilled to hear that echoed by the teachers and their colleagues, and it just really makes me happy that Averill Park is a great place to be, because I think so. But thank you for all your work, and we look forward to having you for a long time.
Any other discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving tenure for those formations? That is unanimous. That's unanimous. That passes. I know where Linda is, and at this moment, we're going to take a break, correct? Do I need to motion out of the meeting? No, I don't do. We just need to go celebrate you guys in a recess.
For a recess, we invite everyone over to the cafeteria. We're gonna have a little ceremony as well as some cupcakes. So head on over to the cafeteria.
Those folks got tenure this year. And we got a lot of interesting curriculum renewal. Jim and Matt are gonna take this.
Sure, so I'll introduce before turning it over to the groups. I know most of you on the board have seen this before, but we do have new members that may not be aware of what curriculum renewal is. This is a process that I think we're in our fourth year now of doing this as a process district-wide. And it's really about giving curriculum teams an opportunity to work on areas that they feel are really critical in their own programs. It's not something that the district dictates, you need to do this or that with renewal. We really talk about them setting their own goals, identifying needs within a department or content area, and then working on those needs over a multi-year period. So we typically have 2 or 3 teams working in what we call the review phase, which is the lion's share of the work. That is typically a monthly process where teams are getting together and they're really digging in. What makes renewal a little unique is that we attempt whenever possible to have vertical teams. So it's one of the few times where we literally could have high school teachers working with elementary teachers talking about math instruction. That brings up some really unique opportunities and unique discussions. So we've been pleased with the output of renewal over the first few years and excited to have 3 teams share their work with us that they worked on this year. I'll start off, I guess, by introducing our first team. This was presented to the faculty. One of the things to note about curriculum renewal is it's entirely optional. We don't force anyone to participate in renewal. So whoever signs up kind of dictates the area that we go in our team. In this case, it was presented as a 6-12 social studies renewal. Our volunteers happen to all be from the middle school, so you'll hear a middle school focus on social studies this year. So I will turn things over to our 3 social studies teachers talking about curriculum renewal in the middle school.
Hi, I'm Chris Anderson.
Hi, I'm Jackie Costa.
There we go. And I'm Erin Fitch.
We're going to present to you about our social studies curriculum renewal.
All right. So when we started this process at our first meeting, we kind of looked at what are our goals, what do we know about what we're working on, 6, 7, 8. We really wanted to focus on using this time and valuing it together to look at how can we vertically align ourselves and really understand what we're doing and where can we find the needs for our students. So we started with the basic audit of materials, textbooks, our resources, things like that. And then we looked at what should we use this time for. We kind of narrowed in on the goal of creating cohesive experiences across 6, 7, and 8 and developing that vertical alignment in areas specific to writing and specific to kind of analysis of resources.
So we spent some time working together and talking about, again, what would be the best use of our time. That was honestly the best part about this, was getting a chance to really just be able to have conversations, because you try to do them at your curriculum meetings, but the time is so short that you're not able to have the in-depth conversations that you'd like. And sometimes it felt like we got stuck in mud as we had like these bigger conversations, but at some point we'd have like an epiphany, oh, this is the idea, or this is the direction that we could go. But it's having that time. And so I just want to say how much we appreciated having the time to talk to each other. But again, our focuses were built on the skills that we wanted to develop, as well as content. And that was something we're trying to trace through the 6th through 8th grade process.
So we kind of narrowed it down to having a spotlight on primary sources, which is something that actually was done a million years ago when Chris Anderson was first in the district. So we just revamped it a little bit with like some newer ideas. And then we really wanted to create authentic writing that's social studies minded. It's not ELA focused, it's not literacy focused, it has social studies in mind.
So we created this kind of template that could be used. We wanted to find consistency for 6, 7, and 8. So that way all of our students see it, they're used to it, they know how to use this, and then it can vary depending on the content that you're teaching, the age level or the activity. So this was one of the first focuses for that spotlight on sources. This is our template, 6, 7, and 8. It's digital, which we thought would be something that obviously speaks to kind of revamping that original spotlight, but also it speaks to the needs of all of our students, especially those with disabilities that have that tech need in there. It lends itself very easily to be on paper or having that technology piece to it. Play a huge role. This would be an example of some of the work we went through and we created that template, and then we each made one specific for our age group. So this would be an 8th grade example where we break down the context. That was a huge piece that we wanted to hone in on in 6, 7, and 8. Teaching the skill and emphasizing the skill of our students being able to talk about the historical context of what they're learning about, being able to put that in their own words and kind of have that broader understanding. So using text to identify that, and then using the development of vocabulary and identifying context clues, and then having the same expectations where you're identifying your vocabulary, you're identifying your language, you're making notes in the margins. And so these are some examples of that.
Analyzing primary sources is difficult, right? Getting kids to understand what something's actually saying can be really challenging. So we tried to create questions along the way that would scaffold from sort of the literal to the more interpretive, and getting kids to think a little bit more deeply about the different depths of the documents that they're analyzing. So going through that process gives everybody an opportunity to be successful in those question 1 or 2, so those more literal questions. And then as you kind of dig a little bit deeper for students that are stronger thinkers, it gives an opportunity for them to shine as well.
We also looked at text sets, so something we could currently right now, it was something that we looked at on our final assessments, but it's something that we would like to later kind of backtrack and do earlier and sprinkle kind of throughout the year. So we just focus on what do we want them to know, what are we preparing them for. We're talking about summative assessments and using some of our CFA work that we've done all year to just kind of look at an avenue through our text sets. So text sets are scaffolded. So at the 8th grade, we have more variety for text sets, also longer text sets, and then we kind of, ease them on in from 6th grade to 7th grade. And we're focusing on these kind of 4 major things that we found were identified in the Regents exams. So in 10th and 11th grade Regents, they focus on cause and effect, how geography impacts history, turning points, and point of view. So ours mimic that.
So even though we didn't have representation for the high school, we were thinking about like how we can contribute to the upper levels for our curriculum.
So this would be an example of one where you're looking at cause and effect with a text that is obviously on World War I, where students would analyze and they would look at, and then they would answer that larger question. It would allow students to give their understanding in written form rather than just multiple choice or going from there. And then also, again, following that cause and effect, we pulled direct from the Regents so that they can see at a younger age where we can break down and kind of talk about and work with them for the expectation of what they will have to write about as they get older, but in a much more kind of
Middle school friendly way?
middle school way. Yeah, exactly. Teach them.
So what we're looking forward to next is creating a teacher toolkit for writing, and really, again, that it's social studies centric for writing, but that there are quick things that we could do. So some suggestions for like parachute writing, where kids are really writing and it's no strings attached. It can even be something they crumple up and put in the trash at the end of the day and no one's looking at it, but just to get them kind of familiar with the idea of how to write and to write for social studies. And really, we just want to make sure that what we're doing throughout the year is really supporting those CFAs that we've really kind of solidified this year.
I mentioned this before, but I think it's worth saying again, the part that we really liked the most was the opportunity to really talk with each other, because it feels very rushed over the course of our normal day and normal meetings. There's just a lot to be done and not a lot of time. So to really be able to sit down and to kind of deconstruct, I mean, we wound up going in different directions. Like we had one idea what we wanted to do, and then at the last time we got together, we basically decided we were going to rewrite our final exam, sort of.
Yeah.
We need more time.
And we did that. We did that. So the opportunity that we had, again, we want to just thank you again for the curriculum renewal process, and we look forward to continuing to dive into those ideas we've set forward in the future.
That's it. Any questions for our social studies?
Just for the acronym challenged CFA.
Common formative assessment. And that is a district initiative, so each content area is doing that. So we're really making sure that every student is getting that common assessment, and then teachers are working together to understand the data, understand where our students are learning, where they may need more assistance in those skills. So that's kind of what we've been building on. Yeah, sorry, good question.
Thank you. Matt's probably said it like 10 times. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm gonna ask what may be a dumb question, but I'm curious how, when you're developing curriculum and you're talking about, you guys are in the social studies realm, but then there's obviously math and ELA and all of that. How does the curriculum of other subject matter impact your delivery of your curriculum and vice versa?
Well, I think we said before, one of the things we wanted to focus on was writing in the social studies discipline, because there is some interlapping. When kids are writing in English, they think it's the same way maybe that they're doing in social studies, but we wanted kids to focus on what it means to be a historian when you write. So there are some parts of the ELA process in the way that they write that I think is a little bit more formulaic in terms of the use of the documents and referring back to the author. And we're trying to get the kids more to kind of refer back to the documents in a social studies, with a social studies voice, I guess. So that was something that we wanted to. So it's not to say that we don't love ELA, but we think those are two different styles of writing. We really wanted to focus in our projects on the historical writing side of things.
That historical context piece, I agree completely. It's that we're finding with our students, they struggle. If you were to ask them in conversation and say, hey, can you tell me about why we joined World War I? You get a bunch of hands and a bunch of great ideas and conversations, but when they go to write it down on paper, it's like a roadblock because I think they're looking, where's the text and how do I cite it? We want to teach them and kind of encourage them to tell us what you know in that historical context way. Trust yourself and remember what, so kind of developing those skills in a different way.
And it's important to remember for our context that we have every friend. So while a 3-page essay may be easy for some students, we have all of our students, and that isn't something we want to necessarily tackle in every single class. Friends have 15-1s in English, so we're kind of trying to make it so it is not overwhelming, and our class is often the class where kids have some wins, and we want to keep it that way.
I just want to thank you. Social studies is just, it's really important, and I appreciate that. You said something about students putting it in their own words and thinking about it themselves, and it's just very important that kids are not, read it, spit it out, that they actually take the time to think about what it means in the context of everything. Yeah, thank you guys. That was really good.
Thank you.
Thank you, social studies team. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will now shift our focus to our technology education team. So again, this is our tech education classes in our middle school, high school level.
All right. I'm Christina Mead. I'm currently an assistant principal at Averill Park High School, and I've had the gift of, let me put this in presentation mode, of leading this team for the last 8 years. Can you pop that in presentation mode?
Sure.
Juggling old eyes, you don't need them except for reading, but juggling back and forth can be a challenge. So the tech team, as I said, I've been with them for 8 years, and I've been so fortunate to watch this program develop and evolve, and being able to leave it in a better place than I took it on, I'm extremely proud of with this group. The technology department is a 612 department that consists of 3 houses, if you will. Our engineering house with robotics, and then our construction trades, which is Kyle. And we have an automotive sequence as well. And what's wonderful about those programs is at the end of the line, they can use this as a sequence to be able to use towards their graduation requirements. So for our kids, it gives them lots of options and wonderful things to be able to do here, and it's great hands-on learning opportunities. What you might not know is despite the decrease in enrollment in the district, this group has maintained its level of interest, if not exceeded over the years, the level of interest in the technology trades. And I really would like to thank the board for supporting. Not many districts have an in-house program like this, and I really am grateful that we have this and that you've been so supportive of continuing it and helping to make it more robust over the years. In addition, we, with the program, we've switched our vendor for our CTE testing. So we switched from NOCTI to the precision exams by UScience. That has been a win for this department over the years as well. They've leveled the playing field, if you will. They have accommodations built in for students so they can have a test read capacity. So we went from when I took over the department back in 16, 17, not all kids were meeting with success taking those exams. And now this year's cohort, 100%. Some kids have to swing at the plate a couple times and give it a couple attempts, but everybody's able to make it. And that's a gift of taking on precision exams from NOCTI. The third piece to set the stage before we get into, this is more our Field of Dreams plan that we're gonna pivot to, is the post-secondary agreements that we've reinstated and added to the programs. We have in all three houses, engineering, construction, and the automotive agreements with Hudson Valley Community College, which again gives our kids the ability to earn some college credits while in high school. And then they are also able to feed right into the programs at Hudson Valley if they decide to continue beyond the high school years as a post-secondary option. So that's another win category that we have there. And we're also very proud that we just finished on Friday the cross-curriculum review to concurrently, we're up for our 5-year annual CTE renewal right now for the reapproval of our programs with the state. We are also concurrently going to add a request to add CTE science to both the construction and the automotive programs, effective to start 24-25 for next school year. So getting that in before I embark on transitioning to my next adventure in the district, I wanted to make sure we buttoned that up and got that all set for our kids to be able to have access to now English credit, math credit, and science credit, which is equitable to what any of our kids are doing if we send them to Questar for any of the VOTEC, New Visions programs, things of that nature. So our curriculum renewal has been really focused on the why, which is that pathway to graduation. But we've really enjoyed, as the social studies team pointed out, having the gift of time together. What's unique about this technology department is they're very siloed, if you will. You've got the two teachers right around the corner here for the automotive. You got Kyle, who's a one-man band that does it all in the construction field. And then our engineering teachers are split by hallways. So everybody's kind of doing their own thing. So being able to have the gift of time to sit down as a group and really go through the program and how we can make it more robust and just really elevate what we're doing. To have that gift of time, we're so supportive from you to have that support, and we're grateful to have that. So we are looking ahead a little bit too with our long-range plan proposal that was shared with both the building and district level administration. As you know, some ideas, nothing is set in stone, but again, we're here and now thinkers, but also long-range planners of how we can really elevate the program. So the group started with a problem statement about some of the things that we've identified as issues that we'd like to try to rectify over time in maybe next year and then beyond with the curriculum renewal process. So they did identify in the engineering side of the house, we've had a bit of a decrease in enrollment, and we've also had sometimes where students are taking two courses that are pretty similar that aren't necessarily needed to be taken at the same time. So working with the middle school, and again, that's where that 6 to 12 lens is handy to make sure that we're getting kids enrolled in the right things coming up to the high school. And then once they're here, making sure that we have the offerings to be able to continue the project Lead the Way in the engineering side of the house. So they're looking to do some interesting solutions, which I'll have Kyle speak more to as we move through. The other thing we noticed is when we go to some of the other districts and look around, and even questions we have with our GD students when they're looking to come to potentially Averill Park High School, is we don't have currently a business teacher. So we've looked at how we can use our resources and maybe work concurrently to be able to redeploy maybe some of our staffing in the future, to be able to address some of those needs. Because with our current program comes work-based learning, opportunities, and a variety of things that a business teacher could help add to and make it a more robust kind of program. So I'll have you continue maybe, and I'll bow out with this piece. So the teachers teaching different stuff.
So as Christina mentioned, we really have three different houses. We have the engineering side, the construction side, and the automotive side. There's two in each of those, except for mine. I'm the only one-man band. And one of the issues we ran into, so my intro course is taught by Matt Duff in a computer lab for a construction course. I don't quite know what he does on his side. He doesn't quite know what happens there. So trying to align it in a way that we can make sure things through the sequence that students coming in as ninth graders can be building on the skills that they're going to need down the line. And looking at how we could possibly do that as we go forward. Same thing with Matt on his side. Kirsten Lambright currently teaches the intro to all his courses. Again, not quite sure, there's crossover, there's things that could be cleaned up with that. He would like to get back to teaching the IED course, which is the intro for the engineering side. What's the last one?
Teaching outside, yeah.
Oh, right, so that's basically saying how we do that. We'd like to keep it all in our own houses, to keep things kind of
Hold on, I went
going the
back.
right way. So on the engineering side, on the automotive and construction side, we're kind of at like full cap and we're kind of putting kids on wait lists to get in. But the engineering side has a little bit of a different. There's a lot of different versions of it and not quite the sequence that we have. So there's small numbers. There's numbers that can be condensed. Courses could be offered every other year instead of every single year, and rotating in a way that could make it work a little bit better. As you can see up there in the second bullet point, there's some courses that have some, inconsistent and small numbers in there. And
The last 3 years.
And seeing how we could make that work a little bit more efficiently for the, for the building to make sure that we can get kids what they need, but also maintain a
Robust program.
robust program.
And that's where I think I've worked with the art department as well. They have a really good curriculum map that maps out across 4 years that students have access to be able to get to all of the courses over that time, but not having to let go of any of the classes and all of that. So in our conversations, I brought that up, and then the team kind of did the data dive, looked at everything and said, yeah, that might really work for us. So that's something we're really exploring to do with more of the engineering side of the house as we keep moving forward. Matt Duff and all of his little fades in and out with the slide deck. So then we've also had, which I touched upon earlier, the freshman elective problem that, sometimes they'll pick something and they didn't realize until they got into the course, it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. So really making sure our course catalog is really on point with the description when they go down to do the Algonquin visit, making sure that when they're meeting with the kids that they can describe the course as well, and making sure our counseling team works with the middle school counseling team to ensure that those things don't happen as much. Mr. Duff ended up surveying our current ninth graders to see, get a pulse on what they were thinking. So these were some of the options and things that they shared. And again, this will be shared out with everybody to be able to get really into the weeds. But you can see IED is Intro to Engineering and Design. That's what that stands for. And Fundamentals of Construction both have a lot of CAD, which is a computer-based design program. So to take both of those is almost redundant. So we really want to tease out not having kids sign up for both of those. One is a full year course, one's a half year course. And that's where, again, having the counseling team really get to know the kids, which is going to be a better fit for them and what their long range goals are, is critical at that point. We also polled whether kids got into their first choice, second choice, all those things. Because again, the master schedule, only so many pieces of the puzzle fit each time. And then polling the kids, are you moving on in one of our sequences when you finish, or are you just taking an elective, kind of getting your feet wet and then moving on to something different? So those are all the deeper pieces there. Then the question was posed, if we had a business program, would that be something you'd be interested in? And the students, there was about 30% that said, yeah, I probably would have taken something in the business field instead of some of these if that was an option. So that led us to, thinking this might be a good opportunity to be able to leverage that and use that if an opportunity presented, staffing wise down the road. Then also looking at making the course loads a little more equitable, and also if we were to move from 5 technology teachers, which we currently have, and to absorb 1 to use if an opportunity presented down to 4, what would that look like? Did I just go backwards? No, sorry, there it is. So this is Kirsten Lambright and Matt Duff, both are our 2 engineering teachers. That's why you see the specifics there. And it looks like a boatload of acronyms, but that's all the different courses that are currently offered in the Project Lead the Way. And it kind of gave that rollout of how it would look and how it would go if we were able to start absorbing some of those with 1 teacher and then eventually having that business teacher to help support the technology department, but also to offer for the building at large another option, which again, we're looking at the specifics and then the whole building at large. Here's our construction. You can see they are full. Kyle is definitely rocking and rolling. And he also, you can see on this side of the house, he would be able to do one of those fundamentals. He really wants to kind of get his hands into that entry level course because they don't even know who he is till they sign up currently for construction. So it's important to kind of start building that bridge. So here's a outline. Again, this is all, field of dreams kind of things of what this could look like if we were able to get the training for Matt Duff too. That's why there's golf and baseball, because he also coaches. And where would be opportunities for him to get trained in the Project Lead the Way courses that Kirsten currently teaches, which is like digital electronics and some of those other, the capstone project, EED, engineering, design, all of those kind of things, again, in a 3-year sequence, so that it's not more than somebody could chew kind of thing. The other piece, which you've heard about at previous board meetings and in some of our capital projects, is the physical spaces and the use of that. Currently, automotive, they have what we would call a clean space and a dirty space. They have a classroom space, and then they have the 3-bay auto shop that they work out of. Engineering, they have 2 separate rooms, and then Matt Duff's, we took out a wall at one point, and we have 2 classrooms that now house the robotics competition arena on the back half there. Kyle is a 1-man band, and he's a 1-room guy. So currently, his space does both things. So it serves as both a classroom where he does his instruction, but it's also the shop where he does the building and construction. So ideally, if we were to get a opportunity to acquire a space that we could use as a teaching space, it would give him a bigger footprint for that woodworking space and give him 2 different spaces to use, which is helpful too when you have substitutes and things of that nature. So this goes through the devil of the details, and I'm not going to go through it all with you for time's sake, but again, what we're thinking and the rationale behind the spaces that we're looking at. And then the students with their schedules, we want to make sure that the tech teachers, that there's a priority because there's only so many times that that's offered versus like a global history where there might be 6 sections, that we have to be very strategic and calculated with where and when we use these, and especially if we're going to be sharing spaces. So that's the other piece we talked about and looked at. So the business teacher, we have goals for that. For us specifically as a tech department, we're looking for somebody to help manage the work-based learning hours. Also having CEIP, another acronym about career exploration internship program. That's what that is somebody that could actually work with folks in the industry and build those internships for our kids. That's a specialized certification somebody has to have that we don't currently have. So again, taking our current programs and elevating it to the next level. Providing more options for freshmen, the CDOS credential, also having a person to be able to manage that, which is not only for the tech department, that is also across the building. Our 1211 rooms, our students with disabilities can exit with a credential. So having somebody that could kind of manage that would be a gift to this district as well. And taking a look at our career and financial management curriculum to have a different lens versus we have the tech lens that we look at that currently, and we've had our math department look at it, but have that third person, a fifth person in the industry be able to look at it would be great too. And then the final piece, the conclusion. So gaining a business department as well as somebody that can add value to the tech department would be a win if we could make this happen. Gaining a certified person to manage those work-based learning hours and CDAS hours and the internships, major win. A more efficient construction lab space and a classroom space would be a win. And a better experience for freshmen, getting them into what they really are interested in and being able to excel in there would be great. And then having those full and consistent class sizes by doing those alternating schedules, that would accomplish that as well. Hurdles. There's always the unanticipated, you don't know till you're doing it, but you want to just get things moving and then, ready, fire, aim, I think is what Heath uses. And looking at it from that lens, there is a little cost to it because to send Mr. Duff to train in all those project lead the ways, there's an initial cost, but the return on the investment to be able to maintain that for kids is a win. And then the 7th assignments, we currently have these guys working on extra assignments versus standard teacher because they're experts in that specialized area and we don't have other people that can teach those things. Coordination of the lab and classroom spaces, the need for a business department, and then like that unknown. We just don't know till we're doing it, but we think it's definitely a worthwhile exploration thus far. And they're going to continue next year in their 3rd year of the curriculum renewal cycle. But we definitely have bolstered all of the areas, ELA, math, now science, and the curriculums themselves. So, and we again thank you for your support with all of that through the years. Me especially as I'm transitioning out. So, it's been a ride. So, thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm super excited to hear about your internship ideas. I think it's so hard, kids get this concept. I think about the graduates, like our Grace here leaving us tonight, they're bombarded with, well, what do you want to do? What are you going to focus in? And really, how are they to know if they can't get some of that exposure? So I appreciate your efforts and I support your efforts. One other thing too, I was wondering, with the training costs, I wonder if that's something that he could pursue through the Education Foundation, because Averill Park Education Foundation sponsors some educational programming. I don't know if that would work with the scheduling and stuff, but I know, as a former member, I know that that's something that they're looking for, and I'm sure that that's something that they would be interested in hearing. And then my one question is, were you surprised that 70% of the kids said no to being interested in an entry-level business course, and what are your thoughts on that?
I think the 70% are the kids that know they want one of these 3 programs. They want engineering, they want automotive, they want to race those tractors.
And those kids that were pulled were kids that are in our classes currently. It wasn't across the board. So hopefully the majority wants to continue on with us and wouldn't be interested, but we figured that 30% are some of the kids that might better fit in a different program. So it wasn't across the board, it was kids that were in our, it was kids in our programs.
Because they were thinking as one or the other.
Right.
So they were like, that makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to piggyback off of that, I'm gonna guess that the majority of high school kids or students don't really know what they don't know. So you hear business and you don't really know necessarily what that involves, but business touches literally everything. And so if you want to be a mechanic, that's great because you want to work with your hands, or you want to be a contractor and you want to work on these big construction jobs. They don't actually, realize how much the business aspect will be affected, and that they won't just be able to just build houses. There's a whole piece of that they wouldn't know about. So I think probably some of your survey results probably reflect the just lack of understanding of the world at large, probably to some degree. I'm curious, as it relates to the low enrollment on the engineering side, how much discussion goes on at the middle school level? I know I have 3 kids in the district, one still in the middle school, and I know that there's not really a ton of discussion that involves the parents about the elective selection process. We learned the hard way with my oldest about like picking the 8th grade elective really determines your track going forward. And so had a little bit of prep there, but I wonder if there wasn't more discussion about the potential opportunities there that, again, from a developmental stage, they hear art or they hear music or they hear something that's going to be, fun. They hear engineering and they're like, that sounds hard. They maybe don't understand the opportunity there and engaging parents, maybe a broader information session might be helpful in promoting that program, just a thought. And then lastly, have you done a cost analysis or any prospectus related to the modifications that you need from a programmatic level from like a cost perspective of, I know I can see what you're asking for, but really what does that equate to in dollars? And, in terms of can we find a creative way to meet the need? Is there the $100,000 projects that we do that could associate, that could be helpful in those areas from like the physical classroom standpoint or something like that? Like, what is the cost effective?
I'll jump in on that one because I want to save them that answer. They presented essentially this presentation to Heath and I,
Okay.
really more hypothetically, could we look to do this? So we haven't gotten in the weeds on that yet because they got to first make sure, is this even possible? And I think both Heath and I were very receptive to the idea. As you know, we've been trying to figure out a way to get a business teacher in this school for a number of years through the budget process. It hasn't made it. So this was appealing and that might be a way to do it, but there's obviously implications for course offerings on the technology side. So I think as we work with them next year, we'll probably have to start getting more of that detailed costing things out, but we told them to kind of pump the brakes until we make sure logistically it was going to work from the instructional standpoint of people and students and filling sections.
Right, we weren't looking to do an addition, we were looking to do if an opportunity